What is up, my dudes, and that one girl likes surprises? This is Bikes, Beards, and Brews. Let's kick that intro. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we kick this one off, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. New videos are coming weekly. You ring that bell, you know when they drop. Let's get the other stuff out of the way. Want to save 10% on a Cardo communicator or save some money on some Beyond Riders gear or Kemimoto gear? Then you should definitely check my referral links down below. Want to support me in all my do-gooderness like these cool guys here? Boom! Then you should become part of the Brew Crew and join the coffee page down below. Want to know why I'm asking you for money? Well, next to those 10,000 Amazon affiliate links that also go to a good cause is a link to a video explaining what I do with your money. Get it, got it, cool. Let's move on. All right, guys, so I'm not going to leave you in suspense for too long. I am going to show you the bike. It's not going to be buried at the end of the video or anything like that. We are going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you how it got here, why I have it, because I'm sure there are some questions. Because anyone that's followed this channel long enough knows that I ride a 2018 Road Glide Special by the name of the Death Eater Betty Page. I have talked about my old bike, which was a Dyna Wide Glide. So I'm sure a lot of you are like, what do you mean you got your first Harley? You're already a couple Harleys in there, guy. Like, maybe stop drinking so much and try and make sense. So first, let's look at the bike, and then I'm going to tell you the story behind the bike, because it is bittersweet, and honestly, this bike has a lot of meaning to me, and it is just, it blows my mind. Like, it's hard to put into words the feelings I have having this bike. So let's go check that bike out right now. So what we have here is a 1990 Sportster 1200. So when I was about 12 years old, one of our family friends, his name is Ed, who really was like an uncle, a big brother to me, just overall. He used to do so much awesome stuff with me. He would take me fishing, take me shooting, taught me how to work on cars, just everything. The dude was awesome. He would call my mom at random and be like, hey, don't let Ben go to school tomorrow. I'm going to pick him up. And he'd show up in an 18-wheeler, throw me in the 18-wheeler, and we would go to Maine and start like doing deliveries because he worked as a driver at the time. And I used to think that stuff was so cool, and it was great because that taught me, you know, to respect 18-wheelers on like the road and stuff like that. You don't, as much as some of the ones down south kind of annoy me by taking up the left lane and stuff like that, you never see me like trying to cut them off or be dicks to them. Like, I always give them their space. If someone's trying to change into my lane, like, you know, I'll flash them with my high beams and stuff to let them know there's enough room. Like, stuff like that I learned from him. So when I was about 12, he pulled up at my parents' house on this bike. And at that point in time, I didn't even know he rode. So like all of a sudden there's this dude on a bike that I didn't know, like, he rode bikes, and looks at my mom and he goes, taking your son, we're going for a ride. I'd never been on a bike before at that point in time in my life, so this was all new. Throws me on the back of this bike. It might have had a different seat back then, I don't know. This does look like a stock Harley seat, so this probably was it. Gives me a brain bucket, and we immediately get on the highway. So I actually remember when I first got on the highway, like, having trouble breathing. I didn't, I was just panicking. We're doing like 60, 70 miles an hour. Air is just like smashing into my face. I'm like, I can't get air. I don't know. Things you think about when you're a kid. But the place we went was Laconia Bike Week. So up until that point, I didn't even know Laconia Bike Week was a thing. So again, I was a kid, whatever. Pre-internet, pre-all that stuff. So my first experience on a bike was going to Laconia, and going up to Laconia and just seeing all the sights, all the people. And up until that point, it was like I didn't have a lot of interactions with bikers either. On the way up, we stopped at a diner. We went to get breakfast. There's this couple that started talking to us, and they're like, oh, you're going up to Laconia alone? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you got to ride with us then. You know, you shouldn't go alone. Ride with us. And like all of a sudden we had friends. They bought us breakfast and all this stuff, and we had people to ride up with. And I was like, man, these bikers are awesome. So, yeah, this is the bike, the first bike I ever rode on. This is the first Harley I've ever rode on. Like, this bike has endless amounts of meaning to me. It means so much. So over the years, I've always stayed in touch with Ed. And a couple years back, I was like, hey, Ed, do you still have that Sportster? Do you know where it is? Mainly because I would love to get it and restore it and like ride it. And he was like, oh yeah, it's locked up in my trailer out back. I don't really ride it anymore. It's in a shed. And I was like, hey man, I will buy that thing off you. Whatever you need. I just want that bike. And Ed was like this notorious pack rat. So I pretty much knew he had the bike. So it was, asking was just, more of a courtesy as opposed to going, hey, you got that bike, let's get it. So back and forth for a couple of years, he was like, well, I have somebody in my family who might want it. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to fight with family and stuff. That's cool. More power to them. As long as they're riding, that's great. A couple of years go by and he's like, yeah, they're showing no interest in it. You still want this bike? And I was like, yes, I do. So he's like, cool, come get it. I'm like, cool, when do you want me to come get it? And he's like, well, I've got this trailer in front of my shed, so I can't get to it, so you can't have it now. And I was like, all right, you let me know when you're ready. I'll be there. And I continued to wait. And year after year, Ed would be like, hey, you coming to get the purple bike or what? And I kept saying, dude, anytime you're ready, you let me know. I'll be there. I'll pick it up. And he's like, oh, well, there's still a trailer in front of my shed. You can't get it. It's like, come on. And a few times I'm like, dude, you want help moving that trailer? You let me know. I'll come down. I'll help you move it. And he's like, no, it's too big, too heavy, can't move it, whatever. And it went like that for quite a while. And about a month ago, I met up with Ed in Manchester at my parents' house. They were giving him a TV, and he needed some help loading it into his car. So I drove up there to help him out. And just to, say hi and stuff. We grabbed a little bit of food, shot the shit for a bit, just joking around and stuff, catching up. And, we talked about riding, and I was like, hey, riding season's coming up. Can't wait to like get out and ride with you. He's like, oh yeah, it's, I'm itching to do it. His health had kind of caught up with him. So he had moved on to a trike, and he's been doing that for the last couple of years. But it was just for him to stay on a bike, and I can appreciate that. For all the crap I give people on trikes, like I can appreciate wanting to be out there and riding and stuff. And yes, even with him, I called it a tricycle, and I made fun of him and gave him all kinds of crap. So we were talking about riding and all this stuff. About a week or two after that, I got the call saying that Ed had passed. So lost a friend. Not even just a friend. I lost
big brother, an uncle, a mentor. Like, it was a big loss for me. It really was. And it just kind of, it took me by surprise, because I mean, like I said, I literally was just talking to this dude. And normally I don't bring this sort of stuff to the channel. I leave this off because I never want the whole, like, pity party or anything in the comments, but it does pertain to how I have this bike. And so that's it. It has to be told. So after he passed, his sister and her husband came by his house, and again, he's a back rat. So this place, like the worst episode of Hoarders you've ever seen, that's his house. It was scary. Everyone who's ever been there will tell you the same. So it's not even me just trying to be mean or anything. It's scary. So they started surveying everything, and one of Ed's neighbors came over. It's a guy that I've ridden with before, with Ed. I've gotten to know him. Ed talks to him all the time. And up until this point, like, Ed's sister didn't know I existed, or if she did, she didn't, we've never met, we've never talked or anything like that. So her and her husband were talking, and they're like, well, we got to figure out what to do with this, what to do with that. And immediately his neighbor was like, there's a Sportster in that shed, and that's going to Ben. He's already promised it to him. He is supposed to give it to him. He promised it to him a few years ago. That Sportster is Ben's. So at that point in time, I then fell on his sister and husband's radar. So I went to the funeral, we met, we talked and all that, and they said, hey, as soon as we get the shed open, bike shares, you come get it, you come take care of it. And I was like, that's great. So I got the call a couple days ago from the time making this video, and they said, shed's open, bike's right up front, when do you want to come get it? And I was like, I am on my way. Called my father-in-law, we rented a trailer, we headed right over, loaded this bike up, and now it is here. It is very dirty. It is so the last time this bike was registered was 10 years ago. I'm not even sure if it was actually on the road 10 years ago, but that was the last time the plate had a sticker. At one point in time, Ed was like, hey, you're gonna be able to get this bike running, no problem. I rebuilt the carbs on it. So I'm guessing he rebuilt those like 10 years ago. So I'm not even sure if those are good anymore. I'm probably gonna have to rebuild the carbs. Nonetheless, this video begins a build series that I'm going to be doing with this bike, because I have a few goals here. I want to clean this bike up. I want to get it running. Obviously going to change the look a little bit. I talked to Ed about that before he passed, when he originally said I could have the bike. And I was like, well, I'm going to change it. I don't like that purple you got there, dude. And he was like, you do whatever you want with it. You make it your own, as long as you don't paint it red. So it will not be a red bike. I promise that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be probably emotional, at least for me, because like I said, this is a long time coming, and this is my first Harley. This really is. So I mean, we're talking like 35 years ago I rode on this Harley, and ever since then I've always thought about this Harley, and I've always been like, man, I would love to like get that Harley, and I'd love to restore it, and I'd love to ride it to Laconia. So probably a little late in the season to get it up and riding to Laconia this year, but next year, 2025, I'm going to be on this bike, and I'm going to be riding it to Laconia. And it's going to be the first time that this thing has been at Laconia for probably at least a decade. And I'm so excited to be doing that. Ed's neighbor, his old riding buddy, wants to be there. He wants to ride with me up to Laconia when I take this bike, and it's going to be a big day. So I do hope that you join me as I do this build series, because I've reached out to a lot of like friends and stuff that I've made over the years with this channel. There's going to be a lot of stuff put into this bike that you may have seen on the Death Eater Betty page, like different companies and stuff partaking. And I think it's going to be a really cool looking bike when it's all said and done. I know everyone has some sort of Sportster build on their channel. I can promise you this isn't going to be a chopper or, you know, some weird thing like that. It's definitely going to be a mix of myself and Ed, and I'm going to give it my all and make this a very cool bike. So hopefully you're with me on this, and I hope you enjoy the build series coming forth. There's a lot of work. There is so much work. I think there's a lot. There might not be a lot. I don't know. We'll find out together. So until then, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, share this video with friends, share it with family, share it with that one dude you know who wants a feel-good video series. I don't know. He loves this stuff, trust me. I'll see you all on the flip side.